definition of love will vary depending on who you ask, as does the way people express their love. Regardless, I think most people can agree that love is a powerful emotion. To some, it can be used to create unity and spread kindness. However, for others, the word love can be manipulated and used as a tool to control and abuse. Abuse comes in many forms and many times can be silent and not outwardly obvious. But just like a fart, something doesn't have to be obvious to stink. Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of Criminally Focused. My name is Desiree, and whether you're new to my channel or you're a returning OG, thank you so much for clicking on this video. I truly appreciate your support, and I'm happy that you found me. So today we are going to be talking about the case of 30-year-old Mica Miller, who tragically passed away in North Carolina on April 27th, 2024. This is a story that has recently captivated the nation, so you might have already heard of it. Mica's story is absolutely heartbreaking, and the psychological abuse that she endured during her life by her husband is terrifying. You know, many times in true crime, we talk about physically abusive relationships that turn deadly. However, equally as important to talk about are the psychologically abusive relationships, because those can be equally as detrimental. And that is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. In this video, we are going to be talking about Mica and the abuse that she endured by her husband during and after her life. But before we get too far into it, this video does come with a content warning. You know, besides the typical picture that I throw up in my videos, I don't usually put a content warning in them. I mean, we're talking about true crime cases. Most of the time, they're not going to be easy to listen to, and they're going to be sad. However, Mica's story is not only incredibly sad and hard to listen to, but it might be triggering for some. As a survivor of domestic abuse myself, I have to say that this story did bring up some feelings personally for me that I haven't felt in a long time. In this video, we are going to be talking about abuse in relationships, physical and psychological abuse. We are also going to be talking about thoughts of self-harm and suicide. At the end of the video, I'll of course give you my opinion. However, more importantly, we'll talk about different ways that you can help yourself or a loved one if you find yourself in any type of situation that's similar to Mica's. We're also going to talk about the hand signal that is quickly becoming nationally recognized as a silent way to ask for help. If one positive thing can come from Mica's death, it would be that we learn from it. And if we can arm ourselves with the knowledge to help ourselves and loved ones and keep them safe and protected mentally and physically, then let's do it. But with all that said, this is a tough video. So please look after yourself mentally, and if it's too difficult to listen to, go ahead, check out of this video, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. And YouTube is probably gonna flake the crap out of this video. We're gonna be using a lot of trigger words. So if you could do me a huge favor and hit that like button, I would greatly appreciate it. And at the end of the video, if you like what you see, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Oh, I almost forgot. This video is my opinion, and it's my opinion only. Everything that we talk about on this video is information that I gathered from public sources. So please always do your own research and form your own opinion. All right, guys, enough rambling. Grab your coffee, maybe 2 cups, or whatever you're drinking or smoking, and let's get right into it.
Male or female, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what gender you are. Abuse is abuse.
She got the weapon for self-protection. She told me days beforehand, Dad, I really feel like I need a weapon for protection.
30-year-old Mica Miller died by an apparent suicide back in April. But after a local investigation was conducted, the feds will now be assisting in the probe.
Trying to get my priorities straight right now, and that's making sure that my heart doesn't have any unforgiveness, bitterness, resentment, just forgiveness and hope for the future and peace. Because you can't put a price on peace.
Mica Acacia Miller was born on March 7th, 1994, and she grew up in Wichita, Kansas with her mother, stepfather, and 5 siblings. And I've heard different reports on what year the family actually moved. However, at some point before the age of 15, Mica's family moved to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. After they moved, they started attending a local church called Solid Rock at Market Common Church. And it was there where Mica met and was groomed, in many people's opinion, by her future abuser, future husband, John Paul Miller, aka JP. And no, that doesn't stand for just pathetic, although I do think it should. Mica and JP met when she was 15, according to her family, and he was the pastor of their church. In Mica's obituary, her husband, JP, notes how the two of them had been best friends since Mica was 15. And that, my friends, is incredibly gross. Any 30-year-old that wants to be besties with a 15-year-old has issues. And I'm not even going to say in my opinion, because that's just a fact. At the age of 18, Mica married a man named Jeremy. And JP actually officiated their wedding because I guess JP and Jeremy were known to be pretty close. While together, Mica and Jeremy both worked at the church. Mica worked as part of the landscaping and media team. Jeremy both in sports ministry. During this time, JP was also married to a woman named Allison, as well as a father to 5 kids. So Mica and JP's romantic relationship began while they were both married to other people. And in 2016, both Mica and Jeremy and JP and Allison filed for divorce. A year later, Mica and JP were married. Was Mica aware of JP's criminal history? Because according to the reports that I've read online, his criminal history includes aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, domestic battery and bodily harm, assault and battery of a high and aggravated nature, and being on the premises after being told to leave. One of JP's ex-girlfriends, actually as recently since Mica's death, has come out and spoken up about her experience with JP. And you're going to see a real clear pattern. According to his ex, they met while she was attending his church. She was 14 and he was 19 years old. And I know that's not that big of an age difference, but if I had a 14-year-old and they were dating a 19-year-old, I would be pissed. This ex went on to say that she found out that JP was actually in a relationship with the lady that would become his wife, so she broke it off. However, he continued to contact her. To me, it really seems like he's got a history of being what he would call an adulterer or just a cheating piece of shit. After marrying JP, Mica's life pretty much revolved around him and their church. Mica was a huge part of the ministry. She was the church's graphic designer, the youth leader, the women's ministry leader, and, of course, the pastor's assistant. I just kind of feel like he would have had her be his assistant regardless of that title or not. The marriage between Mica and JP was incredibly rocky and abusive. After they got married, JP would claim that Mica was bipolar and that she would spend large amounts of money during these episodes that she would have. He also involuntarily had her committed to a hospital and put on medication.
I want to bring in News Nation producer Allison Weiner, who's been digging into this story since the very beginning. Allison, you know, the statement yet again pointed out that the allegation that Mica suffered from mental health issues, that she was hospitalized from February 8th until February 10th. Everybody's been wondering, like, why that hospitalization, how it came about. And you were able to dig up that answer today. What is it?
Well, I got an affidavit from Mica's father, Michael, and in the affidavit, he talks about the fact that John Paul was going around saying that Mica was not taking her medication and that she needed to be hospitalized. And when Mica's dad looked into it, he found out that she was really deciding to take just one pill instead of two pills, which is something that she was very much allowed to do. So he found at that moment and throughout a lot of their interactions that, according to him, John Paul was exaggerating a lot of things and making up things so that he could, in fact, get Mica hospitalized against her will.
So how did she end up being admitted against her will?
Well, he actually had a document. It was John Paul who admitted her, who signed the paperwork. But he showed Mica a document, and this is according to Mica's dad, but there was a document that he had shown also to Mica's father that showed that the power of attorney would be still in Mica's dad's name and also in her brother Nate's name, so that if somebody had to get her out of there, they both had the power of attorney, as well as her husband. That document was never notarized or filed, but it's something that Mica saw.
I've read that the medication that she was prescribed was called lithium. And I know some of you might be wondering, how can anyone be forced to take a medication that they don't want to take? Well, like I said in the beginning of this video, I too have gone through some pretty traumatic domestic abuse in my life. And although I've never spoken about it on this channel, this part of Mica's story, in my opinion, just shows how trapped she really was. As a survivor of domestic abuse, I was also incorrectly diagnosed and given lithium. And just some basics, I guess, about lithium. Lithium is a highly prescribed medication used to help with bipolar disorder. According to a study that was posted on the National Library of Medicine, if lithium is given to somebody incorrectly, like if they don't need it, they can start to experience some pretty gnarly side effects. If misdiagnosed, it could cause a person to start to experience feelings of hopelessness, agitation, and mood swings. You know, years ago when I was hospitalized and given lithium, I had never been diagnosed with being bipolar in the past. Not like there's anything wrong with being bipolar. I was just saying that a doctor had never at this point told me that I was bipolar. However, the doctors there told me that if I didn't take the medication that they were prescribing to me, that they could hold me for up to 6 months. When I questioned that, they told me that it was something that could easily be done. All they'd have to do is stand in front of a judge and tell them I wasn't following doctor's orders. And then basically the key would be locked away until I did. And, you know, of course, I wanted to get the hell out of there. So I finally did what they told me to do, and I took the meds. And lithium made me feel so uncomfortable and just psychologically off balanced. I can't even describe it more than, I guess, saying that my poor family had to deal with quite the loose cannon for a little bit. Luckily, I was able to meet up with my current doctor, and they put me on anxiety medication, which ended up working better. And remember, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not saying that this is what happened to Mica. However, since her passing, Mica's family has come out and are adamant that she experienced no mental health issues until she married JP. Abusers tend to be highly skilled at manipulation, and it is my opinion that JP probably convinced Mica that she needed to take this medication and that she did suffer from being bipolar. And it doesn't stop there. While JP had Mica hospitalized, he also removed her belongings from inside their house, as well as picked up her purse and her car keys from the hospital. When she got out of the hospital, JP had taken the car and refused to give it back to her. When Mica called the police, JP explained to them that Mica suffered from episodes and she had mental health issues, and that he was simply protecting the car so she didn't sell it. Allegedly, during this time, he also transferred assets such as the house's deed into his son's name and removed Mica's. He just sounds like a total creep, right? And we're still not done yet. JP also accused Mica of stealing $1,200 in donations from the church. However, according to her family, charges were never pursued due to the police believing that it was basically just a domestic incident.
I wanted to ask you about something else, and this goes back to that idea of why he says, and correct me if I'm wrong, why he says he had to set up the power of attorney. He was concerned about whether Mica would be taking money, because there was this allegation that Mica was a suspect in the theft of $1,200 in donations for the Solid Rock, this missionary efforts. I understand you want to clear the record up on that.
That was investigated. I have seen, police excerpts on that, and from what I've seen, to best of my knowledge, it said that that was just a domestic dispute, and there was no criminal charges to be filed.
Okay, and also, as far as the amount that was mentioned, Mica was having trouble with the websites releasing the money to her from the donations,
Such as Venmo or stuff like that.
Right. They were holding on to those funds, as they do, for like the 3-day period or whatever. During that period where the money didn't show up yet, he was accusing her of stealing that money.
In October of 2023, divorce proceedings began. The divorce was then called off because I guess they were trying to reconcile things. However, by January of 2024, they were separated again. And in April, days before Mica's death, she filed for divorce again. This time, she also filed for a protective order against JP. She also told her dad that she was planning on buying a gun for herself for her protection. During this time, Mica began telling her friends and family that she felt like she was being followed. She also mentioned GPS tracking devices that were being put on her car. Now, at this point in the story, to you, it might actually sound like Mica might have been going through something psychologically. However, just hold off until you make your final judgment, because on the morning of March 7th, Mica reported to the police that her car tires had been slashed. Then later in the day, she called the police again, this time reporting that there was a man that she was trying to get a restraining order against and that he wouldn't leave her alone. While Mica was at a gas station pumping gas, this man had actually stopped and tried to talk to her. She told the officer that despite having this man blocked, possibly from using other numbers, he would still call and harass her. And while talking to the police, this man called Mica's phone, kind of proving to the officer that what she was saying was honestly happening.
News Nation's Rich McHugh has looked into this story since the very beginning, joining us live with the latest developments. Rich, what can you tell us?
Hi, Alex. So first, we need some context so our audience can better understand that moment and what they were seeing. We FOIA'd a number of documents from the police. We got back a whole treasure trove from the Myrtle Beach Police Department, about 14 different police reports filed in the past 2 years, many of them within the past 3 months. There's 2 in question that were filed on March 11th of this year, so just about 2 months ago. I want to read from them directly. They say, police officers respond to East Coast Honda. That's what we see in the video. She's at East Coast Honda in Myrtle Beach in reference to harassment, that Mica was getting her tire fixed after it was slashed, that she told the officer of the tracking device on her car, that the suspect showed up, quote, she told him to go away, but she does not want to talk. And then when she pulled out her phone to record, he sped off. The victim then leaves and goes to East Coast Honda. Again, this is what we're about to see. And the suspect showed up again. That appears to be this moment at East Coast Honda. Let's roll that tape.
Away.
I'll show you the pictures.
Do you want to go to jail?
It'll be on Facebook in a few hours.
Alrighty, you'll be in jail in a few hours. Walk away.
Now, this video, for people that have been watching this is a window into the nightmare that she had been living. She had told the police officer in that police report that day that she was afraid for her life, and we're seeing why.
On April 8th, Mica called the police yet again, this time to report that a naked photo of her had been posted online. She told him that she believed her husband had been the one to post the photo. Later, JP admitted in an email, allegedly that was written to Mica, that it was, in fact, true, that he had posted that photo. And just stop for a second to think of how embarrassing that would be. Just incredibly humiliating. After her most recent experience with her car tires being slashed, she brought her car to the mechanic to get it fixed. And while looking at the tires, allegedly, she was told that the tires had been slashed using some kind of device, I guess, that you can purchase online that is used for tire deflation. The mechanic also found a GPS tracking device on her car. However, this isn't the only time that a tracking device was found on Mica's car. Allegedly, at least 3 other times, Mica or the police found a GPS tracking device on her car. The last time, actually, she removed it from her car, called the police, and asked them to take it in as evidence. However, they told her that this was a marital matter and that she could keep it and gave it back to her. Like, what the fuck? So it sounds to me like she really was being harassed and followed, as she claimed. I know, it sounded crazy at first, right? Almost as if somebody was trying to make Mica feel crazy. And guys, the GPS tracker and the harassment weren't the only disturbing claims that Mica made leading up to her divorce. According to one of Mica's sisters, although she really was looking forward to life after marriage and did actually make future plans, she admitted to her sister that she was also fearful that she wasn't actually going to make it to the divorce. Her sister has quoted Mica as saying, "If I end up with a bullet in my head, it was not by me. It was JP." So this brings us to April 27th, the last day that Mica was alive. And this is where I want to go over the timeline as we know it, the 911 call that was released, and surveillance footage. And I know, that's a lot. And this video is probably getting long. So thanks for still being here, and I'm going to try to hurry. According to investigators, on April 27th at 11 a.m., Mica is seen on her Ring camera arriving home. And then by 11:38, she's seen on the same camera leaving. At 12:12, Mica was then seen on store surveillance entering Dick's Pawn Shop, which is located in Myrtle Beach. At 12:34, she left the store with a gun and ammunition. At 1:27, she was seen on surveillance at 41 Grocery and Grill getting gas and a snack. And then she leaves the gas station at 1:35. At 2:55, Mica is at Lumbar State Park and she places the 911 call. And I'm going to play it, but if you haven't heard the 911 call, brace yourself. It's so sad.
Harleston County 911, what's the address of your emergency?
Hi, are you able to trace the location of my phone?
Let me see. You don't know where you're at?
In National Park.
Where's the park located at?
In Fair Bluff.
Let's see.
I have my location on, I think, on my phone. Find my phone is on. I just did my my location.
Okay, I'm showing, hold on one second. you are in Robeson County. Are you at the Lumbar River State Park? And
Yeah, that's where I am.
tell me what's happened.
I'm about to kill myself, and I just want my family to know where to find me.
Okay, ma'am. Just listen to what I'm saying, okay? Let me make sure I got the exact location where you're at, okay? Just 1 minute.
After the call abruptly ended, deputies were dispatched to the Lumbar River State Park. And from there, they met with the park superintendent. Park rangers and the police began searching the area for Mica by foot and utilizing a drone. During the search, they came across a black Honda Accord with South Carolina license plates. The license plates were then traced back to Mica. According to authorities, inside the car, they found an empty Sig Sauer case, a box of ammunition, as well as receipts for the guns purchased from the pawn shop and the gas station. Both receipts came from earlier that day. Shortly after discovering the car, sadly, they found Mica's body. She had died from a gunshot wound to her head. During the investigation, while the police were at the crime scene, they were approached by a man who said that he had been fishing nearby and he heard a woman crying. Then he heard a gunshot and then the crying stopped.
Mica Miller's death has been suspicious from the get-go. Even after police officially ruled it a suicide and shared plenty of evidence, her family still has questions. There was no eyewitness to Mica's death that day. There was, however, an ear witness, a fisherman, who was out on the lake at the time of Mica's death. And he says he heard Mica crying just before the fatal gunshot rang out. That fisherman took News Nation's investigative correspondent Rich McHugh on his boat to the exact spot where Mica died. And Rich joins me now live. Rich, that's sort of been the last piece that a lot of people have been trying to put together in this story of Mica's final hours. Tell me about what the fisherman was able to tell you about and what his experience was.
He graciously took us out for about a half an hour and allowed me to interview him. He didn't want his face on camera or me to name him, but he walked through what he experienced, and we have some of that sound right here. Let's take a look. Let's take a look.
I heard a cry back when I came in, where I told you I started hearing the crying at. Then I heard a gunshot. That was probably about 2 minutes or so after I started hearing the cry. It might have been a little bit longer than that. And I heard a gunshot. It wasn't a loud gunshot, and then the crying just stopped. Right about here, that's when I heard the gunshot. The gunshot went off.
From which side? Over here on the left?
To the left. That's where I heard the gunshot.
In there?
Uh-huh. That's when the crying stopped. That looks totally different from when I came in here. Anyway.
Was it low water when you were here?
No, it was actually less water than what's in here now. So that's the area I went in through with my boat.
How do you get in there if you're not in a boat?
You can't get in there if you. What do you mean?
How was she in there?
There's a path that comes in there. That's what I told. There was a path.
But let's stop here just for a sec and talk about that. I know this fisherman has gotten a lot of accusations saying that either his story is made up or that he could have been possibly paid by JP to say the things that he said. And I'm not saying any of that. However, if I'm understanding correctly, the fisherman's statement doesn't really line up with what her family is now saying that they were told by park rangers. Not only was she found in an area that was supposed to be only for park rangers and cut off to the public, but that multiple shell casings were found at the scene, as well as a live bullet.
And I want to be very clear here. Despite the findings from law enforcement that Mica had died by her own hand, that the sheriff's office saying John Paul was not in Robeson County when Mica died, do you believe there is more to the story, correct?
Yes. It's there's a lot of details that they did not cover, and because it was equivalent in their eyes to previous self-inflicted wounds, I believe the law allows them to do less work. It does not prevent them from doing more work. And since there were multiple shell casings found and a live round found, it already didn't make much sense. So it would seem that they would automatically do a complete toxicology, not just blood alcohol. It doesn't sound like Mica during the 911 call, but there was screaming going on and such, and that's not something indicative of a self-inflicted. That's sounds like a fight, with the bruising on her hands and on her arm, scratches on her hands, indicating defensive wounds. So very frustrating.
You say defensive wounds. Is that something that was told to you by a medical professional when you talked about multiple casings there? Where did you get this information? And when you brought this information to law enforcement or brought it or mentioned to them, what did they say?
Okay, as far as finding out, the park ranger took us back to the scene and pointed out, here's where she would have been standing. Here's where the shell casings and the live round were, which also doesn't make sense. She knew how to use a weapon. She got the weapon for self-protection. She told me days beforehand, Dad, I really feel like I need a weapon for protection. And she knows how to use it. She's qualified. She's been through training. Got the information about the shells. I did it directly from the park ranger. And then when we brought that up to law enforcement, they just said, well, they had no answer. They really just had no answer why, any kind of, not even a speculation. They didn't even say, well, she probably did this, probably did that. They just said, this is what we have.
So if this fisherman is claiming to have heard Mica crying and then a gunshot and then no more crying, how are there multiple shots fired? The medical examiner has ruled Mica's death a suicide as of now. Her family adamantly denies that is how she died. And sadly, JP rushed the cremation process as soon as the medical examiner's report was released. So besides the pictures that her family took, physical evidence from her body is now gone. After Mica's death, JP announced to his congregation that Mica had committed suicide and discussed her mental health issues.
My wife has passed away. And it was self-induced, and it was up in North Carolina. And we're going to have a funeral for her next Sunday here at 3 p.m. And so it's all I can, I'm just kind of going on adrenaline right now. So y'all pray for me and my kids and everybody. And she wasn't, y'all knew that she wasn't well mentally, and that she needed her medicine that was hard to get to her. And so I'm sure there'll be more details to come.
Okay, what do you make of that?
Again, we're not seeing things we should be seeing. No grief in the forehead, no grief in the face. His expression is blank. It's not sad. We're not hearing the low tone that we should be hearing. This is where he's trying to show emotion, and he's not really showing any emotion. Again, his arms are far away from his body. Why bring up his wife's medical, or not being able to get medicine during this? That's called a qualifier. He's qualifying what's happened to her. These are all this is so, it's horrible, but it's really good when you want to show someone the body language of what shouldn't be happening when someone's grieving.
In my opinion, JP is absolutely disgusting. And it's also my opinion that JP has a pretty clear history of being a predator and a liar. If somebody would go to such great lengths for control, such as having somebody involuntarily hospitalized and medicated, as well as putting GPS tracking devices on their vehicle, I just don't know what they're not capable of.
Hey everybody, I just want to let you know that I'm alive and well, and life's been kind of crazy the couple past weeks, months, years, but I've kind of had to keep my circle really small for the past couple weeks, just because I'm going through a lot and it's hard, and It's my cross to bear. It's the thing that God has put in my life to deal with, and I don't want to bring a lot of people into it. I'm so thankful to God for a strong family and the friends that God has put in my life to be there for me at this time. So I just thought of something as I'm listening to a song called Trouble by Kane, and I just wanted to give you a dare today. I dare you to do something either good for yourself or someone else, because like the second greatest command, love your neighbor as yourself. And it makes the enemy so mad, because like when Job in his misery like took time to pray for his friend, or the woman gave up her last flour and oil to the prophet, or when you're going through something horrific and sad and awful, but you take the time to call and encourage your friend, or pause in your prayers, lifting up your concerns and worries and cares, and you pause to pray for your friend whose family member has cancer, or to lift up their daughter or son who's just going through a season and they need prayer. Nothing makes the enemy more mad.
I think Mica's death is so tragic, and that she was such a beautiful light in this world. And I think she could have done amazing things and helped a lot of people, regardless of if JP pulled the trigger or not. I think that he should be held accountable. He put her through absolute torture. Now let's quickly go over some ways that you can help yourself or a loved one if you find yourself dealing with an abusive partner. First things first, the hand signal for distress. This is quickly becoming pretty popular. Hopefully you've heard of it. However, if not, let me show you. So you put your hand up like this, thumb in and down. If you are out in public and you happen to see somebody make a gesture like that at you, like if you're in a restaurant, I would suggest calling the manager or calling 911. The more people that know this, I think the more helpful it would really become. I mean, think about it. It's a silent way for somebody to reach out to get help. Now, you know that I love researching, so I did find a few websites that I am going to link below. One of the websites is called loveisrespect.org, and on this website, they have so many resources. They explain common things to look out for, such as love bombing, as well as knowing how to set boundaries in relationships. They also have Q&As, as well as resources on what you can do to help a friend or a family member when they're in a relationship that is abusive and unsafe. The National Domestic Abuse Hotline also has a website. This is some incredibly helpful resources
offer the
as well.
ability for someone to reach out and get help, whether it's through a live chat or even texting. Also, on both websites, if you click on the circle exit button, it takes you straight to Google. That way, if you're ever looking at the website and somebody walks in that you don't want to know, you can click out of it and it's like you were never there.
While I was researching into this, I actually found some other interesting code words that people have been known to use to ask for help. And I don't know if these actually work, but I thought I'd bring them up. One seems like it's European. So if I have any European viewers, you'll have to let me know if this is actually used where you live. According to GoodRx.com, ordering something called an angel shot at a bar can signify to a bartender that you need help. And then you can also ask for Angela, which is supposed to notify staff that you need a ride safely away from the situation. However, what if an Angela actually works there? That would be really awkward. I think your safest bet is to use the hand signal. And I'm curious to know if you've heard of either the hand signal, asking for Angela, or asking for an angel shot. You'll have to let me know in the comments section below. But that is all I have for you today, guys. This has been a long video. So if you are here with me at the end, I appreciate it. I think everything that we went over is incredibly important. And as I stated earlier, even if Mica chose to take her own life, I believe that John Paul Miller is responsible. If you close your eyes and you think about it, not only did she lose her entire community by cutting ties with the church, but he also publicly humiliated her and put her through intense psychological torment, in my opinion. I feel like he knocked her down, and then while she was down, he continuously kicked her. My heart breaks for Mica and her family. My thoughts and my prayers go out to anyone who Mica's life might have touched. I'm sure her loss is just so devastating. My prayers also go out to everyone involved who is experiencing abuse in any relationship. Please know that I know we don't know each other personally, but I appreciate you. And I know what it's like. There is a way out, and one day you can look back just like I can now and gain power and so much self-love and respect, just knowing that you made it through a difficult situation. Don't let somebody else win, and don't let somebody else take away your shine. Until next time, guys, stay safe and stay focused. Bye.